Welcome to Blue Talks.
It's an honor to be here with all of you at MIT today. Have you ever had one of those days where you had something really important going on, and then life just came in and completely derailed everything? The other month, I had an in-person, in real life ribbon cutting for my podcast. It's called Your Comeback Story Podcast. The local Chamber of Commerce hosted it. The local business owners all came out to support me, and it was kind of a big deal. Well, I'm getting ready, and I'm loading the car, and I've got the trunk lid up, and the trunk lid's up, and I open up the garage door. Well, the garage door opens, and it gets stuck on top of the car, and it won't budge either way, up or down. Half of me goes into sheer panic. Half of me's like, okay, who can I call to get a ride? And then the other half starts to solve the problem. I'm like, oh, I've got a stepladder in the kitchen. And I'm also wearing heels for the first time. It's like, run back to the kitchen, get the stepladder, come back out. Oh, not climbing the ladder in heels, back down, shoes on, back up, somehow fix the thing. I have no clue how. Back down, shoes on, finish loading the car, shut the door, out of the garage. I'm now really late to my own event. And I get onto the road, and I get behind the slowest driver ever. And all I could do was laugh because I just got handed a dose of exactly what I teach when it comes to your comeback story. You see, we think of the comeback, we think of this big event and this big adversity. But the reality is just the everyday stress that we deal with it, and it adds up over the months and the years. And the stress, it causes us to live in burnout. It causes us to disconnect from ourselves. And yeah, it even causes us to lose some weight. And the next thing you know, we're putting on stretchy pants instead of jeans, and we're like, where did all this weight come from? And then we might even be secretly resentful of our loved ones because, isn't it their fault that we put their needs above our own? As women in midlife, we go 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we don't stop. We've got our career and our spouse and kids and aging parents and volunteer stuff and community stuff, and we don't have any time for ourselves. And then we look to the expert, and we say, I want to get healthier. Just tell me what I need to do, and I'm going to go do it. We're women. We take action in all areas of our lives. So why can't we figure this out? Do you remember the movies back in the 80s, right? And you always had this comeback montage. Jennifer Beals is pulling up her leg warmers, and Karate Kid's painting the fence, and you've got Rocky running on the beach. Well, the comeback, the montage, it happens after the character has this adversity or this challenge, and they decide to rise. And that's how we've been programmed to view the comeback. But real life is not like TV. And I like to call this base camp cycle. And here's why. You know how, okay, I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna lose weight or exercise more or get healthier. I'm gonna do the thing. And that excitement, it starts in your gut. You know that adrenaline that you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, right? And that adrenaline, it starts in your gut. And it goes the whole way up the body until you are on top of Mount Everest and you're pumping your fist. You're like, whoa, I'm going to get it done. And then an obstacle happens. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to start on Monday. And Monday never happens. And instead of climbing the mountain, you are now right back at base camp. And this is why yo-yo dieting is such a legitimate thing. According to the CDC, over 50% of women at any given time are trying to lose weight. There was a 2018 meta-analysis study conducted by the Medical Clinics of North America. And what they found was that within 2 years, the participants gained back over half of the weight that they lost. So why isn't this working? As a former FBI chief of staff turned holistic health coach, I was on a mission to figure out what got us here in the first place. I wanted to find the clues. You want to know what I learned? Here's what I found out. Is that by the time we're in our 40s and 50s, give or take, we've tried it all when it comes to diet and exercise and getting healthier, but it always looks the same. I'm going to go on a diet. Now I'm eating salad. Salad's rabbit food. Rabbit food sucks. Now I'm starving and I'm hangry and I don't have any energy and, oh gee, the scale hasn't budged. What did I do wrong? I must be a failure. So let's create your sustainable comeback story with your health, inspired by the best comeback movie of all time. Let's jump into your Rocky-inspired framework. R-O-C-K-Y. R stands for rear view mirror. Here's why. You gotta get right and you gotta make peace with what got you here in the first place. I mean, you can't jump into your DeLorean and go back and change the past. But what you can do is make peace and forgiveness with the situation. Peace and forgiveness with the other person. But more importantly, peace and forgiveness with yourself. You see, when we were younger, there were typically 3 different belief patterns that many of us fell into. Some of us were told we were the pretty one. Some of us were told we were the smart one. And some of us were told we were the good-for-nothing one. And now we believe that that's where our value comes from. And we chase our looks and we chase our career and we chase needing to have that validation and needing to prove ourselves. And now we're older, we've got these beliefs and stories and patterns and triggers in our head. Albert Einstein said that everything that's created is created twice. First, it's created in our minds and then it manifests physically. Well, if we're creating our comeback story, it's first created in our minds, and then we're creating it through this lens of what happened in the past, well, we're creating it where we're on this disempowered state. We're in our anger and our fear and resentment and worry and shame and guilt and all of these emotions. Or the best one, I'm done. You know when someone says I'm done, you're like, oh, back up. They're done. And our future becomes what we feed it. And then we feed this future from a disempowering state. Well, guess what it's going to look like? And I want you to listen closely. If you create your comeback story from this place, you're going to come right back around to where you currently are. So the first stop is that rear view mirror, but something else has to happen at the same time. This is the one thing that will guarantee your success. It's what separates the woman who sees results from the woman who continues to struggle. And it's also the one thing that's going to create the most resistance because it is the one thing that will guarantee your results. And that one thing is personal responsibility. O equals own your ship with a P, like a boat, keeping it G-rated. Own your ship. In 2010, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, my 39th birthday, it came out of the blue. I mean, I was a competitive mountain bike racer and a triathlete. I weighed 110 pounds. I stood on a podium and got a medal around my neck. I mean, it's the epitome of health, right? I mean, how did this even happen? I mean, breast cancer is just for old women, right? At the first appointment with my doctor, she put her hand on my knee. You want to know what she told me? She said, lightning struck. And those 2 words were anchored into my soul. She was a great doctor. And I needed to hear those words. I needed that peace at one of the worst moments of my life. But it's actually one of the worst things that a doctor can say. Why is that? It's because it took all the responsibility away from me and it placed my disease on this random act. So I'm thinking, well, there's obviously nothing I can do. And this very act of not taking any responsibility, believing there's nothing I can do, it cost me years of lost wages. It cost me time with my family. It cost me living my life. In 2018, I made a decision that I'm not okay living like this. And I decided to take responsibility for my health. And this has nothing to do with blame or shame. It was just accepting hard truths of where I was at. Things like, okay, Holly, maybe eating an entire sleeve of Thin Mints at one time and drinking 6 cans of Coca-Cola every single day and living this adrenaline junkie, overachieving, stressed out, burned out life, yeah, maybe that's not so great for my health. I mean, I can't control the randomness of life, but I can control things like my nutrition, the environmental factors, and yes, even my stress. And because of that, I gave myself the gift of abundant energy and vibrant health. You want to know what I learned? Disease doesn't just wake up one day and say, you know what? I don't like that Holly Bertone. I'm going to make her life miserable. And then boom, breast cancer. Boom, autoimmune disease. No. Most disease happens because of years of accumulated chronic inflammation by our everyday choices. What we eat, what we drink, the stress, our sleep, our relationships, a bunch of factors that we have control over. I mean, we can't control the randomness of life, but we can control these things. And we can control these things by taking one small step at a time. So let's start taking those steps. C equals create your future self. Goal setting should be in a state where you are creating your future self. Because, I mean, is your goal that, oh, hey, I just want more energy? Or is your goal to have, being able to do anything that you want to do instead of feeling like you're running on empty? Or is your goal to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds? Or is your goal to be able to eat healthy, nutritious food that fuels your body and gives you peak performance and optimal metabolic health? It's not about the doing. It's about the youing. And it's about becoming this version of you that embraces health from this holistic perspective. Here's 4 ways to get started. Number 1, be aware. Just be present without any kind of judgment. Just be aware and be present to what you eat and what you surround yourself with. Number 2, what are you telling yourself? And especially if that's on the other side of justifying something to someone or to yourself. Number 3, read your labels. Just educate yourself on the chemicals and the ingredients. And then number 4, pick one small change that you can make today. Okay, so we've got our steps. We know what we need to do. So what happens when the obstacles do come along? K equals keep the vision, not the view. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever tried to improve your health and then just something completely derailed your progress, right? 100%. Exactly. It's not about removing the obstacles because the obstacles are always going to be there. It's a daily part of our lives. It's about changing your relationship with stress so that you can have the agility to coexist with it so it doesn't negatively impact your health. We can talk about nutrition and movement all day long, but if you continue to let stress hijack your life, you're not going to see the results that you want. The weight around your midsection will never disappear until you address the weight of the world on your shoulders. Think of it this way. When you're having a bad day, totally stressed out, do you eat 2 or 3 bites of ice cream? Or is your spoon scraping the bottom of the container? So how do you keep the vision when life keeps lifing? It took us years to get to this place. So it's going to require a long-term view to get those sustainable results. Things like viewing 1% growth, and we celebrate that as success. Or when we see a setback, we celebrate the lesson instead of calling it or ourselves a failure. And here's the other thing that holds us back too, is that it's not popular these days to be healthy. And at our core, we want to fit in, we want to belong. So we try to get healthier, and sometimes it's those who love us the most, the ones who hold us back. So then we apologize and we justify it's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on a diet, I'm just going to have a salad. And then it makes us feel like the weirdo, it makes us feel like an outcast. And we hate the diet, and then it's just easier to go right back to base camp. In order for you to be successful, we need to combine your future self with that future vision to create the long-term view, to create your health from this holistic perspective. R, rear view mirror. O, own your ship with a P, like a boat. C, create your future self. K, keep the vision, not the view. Which brings us to Y, come back home to you. This is what it's all about. This is when you step out of your 80s movie montage and you've got a whole different vibe going on. You're confident, you're determined, you know how to keep those healthy habits even when the day goes sideways. And this is the best part of the journey. Is it become you find out who you become and you realize you have this inside of you all along. I have 3 final thoughts that I want to leave you with. But before I do, I invite you to connect with me, and I have a free gift for you. Go to yourcomeback.coach. That's yourcomeback.coach. And then come say hello on Instagram at holly.bertone. And again, I'm Holly Bertone. I'm a holistic health coach for women over 40. So I've got 3 action steps for you to help you start taking those steps to create your comeback story. And my challenge for you is to make one small change today. Number 1, stop putting yourself last and stop apologizing for wanting to get healthier. This is your one and only life, and you deserve to live a life where you're happy and you're healthy because you have value. Number 2, support each other, lift each other up. We should be able to enjoy a meal together without any kind of judgment, real or perceived. And then number 3, be the change. You're a woman in leadership at work and at home. Create an environment where a healthy, balanced lifestyle is celebrated and create the ripple effect so that more women in your life can learn how to come back home to themselves. Thank you.
Welcome to Blue Talks.